Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
This is producer, director, animator Bert Klein, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures. With your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert.
Welcome to yet another edition of Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culturist. And you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, here we are. This is Halloween week. This to me is the kickoff of the big holiday season because right from Halloween, we're going to go right into Thanksgiving and Christmas will be here, Hanukkah, New Year's, you name it. It's the onslaught of the holidays.
It certainly is, Dave. I mean, do you have your Halloween decorations up? Are you a big candy giver in your neighborhood?
Yes. Well, you know something? We're the cool house because we're giving away full-size bars on at our house. And we usually have some neighbors who come over and we all sit in the driveway and drink wine and throw candy at kids that come along. So that's what we'll be doing on Halloween evening.
Awesome.
But, in our neighborhood, we used to get lots of kids. A lot of those kids are now grown and moved on.
Yeah.
And so we're in that transition period where it's kind of a little lull.
Yeah.
We don't get as many kids as we used to.
Oh, that can be blessing and a curse. I mean, it's fun to see the kids. Maybe, when I was growing up, we would we would dress up and do our neighborhood, and then my parents would go to another part of town and do trick-or-treating, which was always interesting. Because we get to see everybody else's homes and see. And if, of course, the porch light is on, that means candy is on. So we're definitely going to be doing it with the kids. I've got my grumpy outfit that I've got. So I've got my grumpy hat. I've got my grumpy shirt. And my wife, what is she wearing this year? I think she's dressing up as a Marvel character. Oh, Loki. So she's dressing up as Sylvie from the Loki series. She's got a Loki leather jacket and the broken crown with the broken horn on it. So she's good. And then the kids have got their Spider-Man and Elsa costumes on for this year. So I'm really excited about Halloween this year with the kiddos. And I like houses like yours, Dave, the full-size candy bars. I know the neighborhood, and I know which ones have the full-size candy bars. We're going straight over there.
and Aljon, I'm willing to bet that when your kids get home, some of those full-size candy bars disappear, don't they?
You know what? We have to screen. we do our parental diligence. We go through all the candy, and yes, sometimes those big bars are just not suitable for little kids' consumption. So, I'm sorry, kiddos. Mommy and daddy have to go through all of your candy first. But, that's a great time of year. And I'm just excited, much like yourself, to get the holidays in full swing. We've already started our holiday shopping and all that stuff, and getting books from Old Mill Press and all kinds of really cool stuff. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. I love that. Hey, we've got an interesting show, and we're deviating a little bit this week. This is a one-off episode, and we're interviewing a young man named Dana T, who lives on the East Coast, and he's kind of a Disney fan he took it upon himself to make a documentary called Beyond the Glass, the Walt Disney World Animation Studio documentary. And we're interviewing him. We're going to talk about his documentary. This is really, I think, a very comprehensive documentary. He interviewed a lot of people who work down at the animation studio tour in Walt Disney World. And I think this is really a shout out to super fans who do fan art or, take it upon themselves to, like Dana did, and make a documentary. So I think this is really kind of an interesting episode, and I hope our listeners enjoy it.
This is what the internet was made for, other than cat videos, Dave.
Yes.
Bringing together fans that are able to share their passion and educate people about stuff. And the great thing is about this is that Dana was able to get interviews and score interviews with so many people and get their take that you've never heard before. And, to cull all of this stuff from various interviews and podcasts and articles was just a really great thing for a fan to put together. It's a love letter to people that really love the studio and behind the studio tours and things like that. So.
Yeah, and you know something, Aljon, I don't know if we would have done this had we, A, not watched that documentary, and B, I worked down at the Walt Disney Studios tour facility a few times while it was open. In fact, I spent 6 weeks there working on Lion King way back when. I think that might have been the summer of 95 when the movie was released later that year. I think I spent 6 weeks that summer helping them get the film finished up. So, something, I think this is really a worthwhile interview for people to listen to and also go off and watch that documentary on YouTube.
Outstanding stuff. Hey, Dave, did you do the Safety Smart videos out of California, or you did it out of Orlando?
No, we did those in Los Angeles. We did all the pre-production and post-production, and we had the animation done overseas.
You did? Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that I wonder if that lines up. It's probably a couple years after the film had released that you ended up doing the Safety Smart films, right, for Disney?
The Safety Smart films were done in association with the Underwriters Laboratories, and I did those. I produced and directed those through the Special Projects Group at Walt Disney Animation Studios.
It was a few years out of the film's release, though, right? It was a few years. It wasn't like
which film?
Lion King.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was. It would have been at least 10 plus years after Lion King was released. Oh. But it's interesting you bring that up because when you watch those Safety Smart films, you sit there and go, "Wow, the production value is off the charts for something that had, I think, a low budget." But what we were able to do was repurpose a lot of the background art and even some animation from the Lion King movie for those shorts.
It's so good. I mean, you must have gotten some really cool key pieces and stuff like that, key art pieces.
Yeah, and also, we had some of the key animators from the movie. Tony Bancroft, who was the lead animator on Pumbaa. Yeah. He did some animation for us on those Safety Smart films.
I'd love to do a deep dive about that at some point because we've had Bruce Lanoil on the show and you've talked about it a little bit, but we've never done a deep dive about it, and I think it's worth diving into at some point, Dave. So we need to bookmark that for an upcoming show, just you and me.
All right, we'll do it.
Well, we've got a great show, as Dave mentioned. We've got Beyond the Glass. We're going to talk about that. We also have, of course, what we've been watching and reviews, etc. But before we do all that,
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
Nothing like getting comments from the Peanut Gallery. Dave, what do we have this week?
Well, we got a very, very nice email, Aljon. Okay. I'm going to read it. I'll let you know who it's from when I get to the end here. Okay. But it says, "Hi, Dave and Aljon. You guys know I always love your podcast episodes, but I wanted to let you know about my 2 recent favorite interviews. First, Bob Weiss and the information about his new book, Ghost Dog. I actually ordered the book from the Old Mill Press and can't wait to dive into it. Yeah. Next, with the 4 parts with Ed Gertner. What a fascinating man. I really, really enjoy all of his stories and behind the scenes information. I also wanted to mention how excited we are to meet the 2 of you at the Animation You All Expo in February. That's right. You know, Aljon, I'm going to be in Nashville with you.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to experiencing this first-time expo and seeing everything and everyone who will be there, but in particular, the 2 of you. Keep up the great work and see y'all in February. Chris Banas, your food fairy and one of the principals of the Grand Circle Tour podcast. Yes. Now, I got to tell you, Aljon, I always love getting, emails from our listeners about the show, but I especially love getting notes from other podcasters who listen to our show. And, Chris is a big supporter. And she has a fantastic Grand Circle Tour podcast that she does with Stan Solo and I think a few other people, right?
Yep.
But it's sort of Stan and Chris, and she's the food fairy. You must know her as the food fairy.
Yes, Chris is great, and Chris was so generous to send me a little care package with some guitar-related pins and stuff that the family crafted, and it still hangs in my office to this day. And of course, I get a note. She did send me a note saying that she did get Ghost Dog, which is great, and I intend on reading that to my kids here over this next week or so, just, gearing up for Halloween and all that. But that's awesome. It's always great to hear from Chris. Always great to hear from our listeners.
Yeah. And, Aljon, when you do share the Ghost Dog with your kids, I'm telling you, you got to charge up the cover.
Yes.
And then shut the lights out so you can see it glow in the dark.
Oh, we got to do that for sure.
It's unbelievable. All you have to do is lay the book down under an incandescent lamp or get a lot of sun on it throughout the day.
Yep.
But you go into the room when the sun is down, it's dark outside, and you shut the lights off, that cover glows like, I'm like a 12-year-old playing with that book.
You're not the only one.
I'm running into a dark room or a closet and closing the door because I just can't help but smile to see the cover of that glowing.
Yeah, that was the thing that delighted me the most, is hearing Bob talk about charging up that cover and being a little kid and watching it glow in the dark, because as a kid we're fascinated by stuff that glows in the dark. And yeah, this book is for sure. I'm definitely going to be charging that book up here this weekend and firing it up for the kids over this week for Halloween season. So Chris, thank you for writing us, and I encourage everybody to feel free to write us, leave us a voicemail. There's a link in our show notes if you want to just leave us a voicemail to play in an upcoming show, or leave a message on our YouTube. The YouTube is a great device that brings our show out to so many people. It's just audio only, but it gives people another opportunity to listen and check out the show archives. Gosh, Dave, we have over 200 shows right now in the hopper of great interviews, and hopefully everybody gets a chance to check those out and delve back in if you're just discovering our show right now. So
it's crazy. I mean, I can't even believe we have over 200 shows.
It is.
And by the way, again, thank you, Chris Banas, and a shout out again to the Grand Circle Tour podcast, which is a great podcast. There's so many terrific podcasts, there's the Jim Hill, there's the Sweet Spot, there's, Michael Bowling and, Diz Unplugged and WDW Radio and, so many great Disney related podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah.
You should check them out. We give a shout out periodically to as many of those as we possibly can.
Sure.
Because it's a great community. It's a great podcasting community.
It certainly is, and we're very pleased to be a part of it. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be with you and to give you a little bit of entertainment and diversion through the week. Lord knows we all need it. So thank you so much, and we look forward to checking out your emails and comments over the next week or so. So keep it up. All right, Dave, I haven't found my film reel, but what we do have is our picks of the week. And Dave, you've been very busy once again with all kinds of great content. What have you been consuming this week?
Well, I really hadn't watched too much or gone to the movies for like 3 weeks. But since I've been back, I've been catching up. So I did go see Venom, The Last Dance in IMAX.
Okay.
And, Aljon, just to give our listeners a little background on this. This is the third Venom movie, and I believe it's going to be the last one. And Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock and Venom, must make a devastating decision as they're pursued by a mysterious military man and alien monsters from Venom's home world. Ooh. Well, this was an okay movie. Mm-hmm. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 36%. I'd probably give it 50. Okay. And IMDb has it at 6.2. Lots of special effects. I think it loses its way a little bit, with all the special effects. But it's got a terrific cast. Like I mentioned, Tom Hardy plays Eddie Brock, the lead. Juno Temple's in this. She's terrific. Reese Ifans, another British actor. Chiwetel. I'm just butchering people's names.
Oh, yes.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yes. He was.
Yeah. Okay.
He was in Doctor Strange. Yes.
Yeah. Cristo Fernandez. It's just it's a terrific cast. But the movie just doesn't hit the mark, really. If you're a fan, if you've seen the other two, go see this. You should see it on a big screen. But it left me a little disappointed when I came out of the theater. I did go see Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. They've done a re-release of it in the theaters. Nice. I don't know how many theaters it's in, but it was playing at my local multiplex, and a friend of mine had never seen the movie.
What?
So, yeah, and I said to him, I go, you can see it on Disney Plus. He goes, let's just go see it in the theater. I said, okay. I always enjoy seeing it, and I feel like I see it in the theater almost on a on a yearly basis. So, I love Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a great film, and you should really see it on a big screen if you haven't. If you're of that generation that, it's only been on VHS or DVD or now on Disney Plus, and you could always watch it on Disney Plus. But if you do have a chance, go see it on a big screen. It's a great movie.
There you go.
Now, on the small screen, there were two movies that dropped this past week on Netflix. One is called Brothers, with Peter Dinklage, Josh Brolin, Brendan Fraser, Glenn Close, Marissa Tomei. I mean, holy mackerel, right?
Yeah, big cast.
The thing I would say about this is that this movie could have been good in the hands of good storytellers.
Uh-oh.
And it just falls short. I think that the incredible talent in this movie couldn't save the script or the direction.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sad. But there you have it. It's got 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb. The synopsis is two criminal twin brothers, one trying to reform, embark on a dangerous heist road trip. Facing legal troubles, gunfights, and family drama, they must reconcile their differences before their mission leads to self-destruction. It's a, ho-hum. If you got nothing better to do and you like Peter Dinklage and Josh Brolin, you can watch it. It's a little reminiscent of, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Josh Brolin and Peter Dinklage play twin brothers.
Gotcha.
So, so on that one. Canary Black.
Yes.
With Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
Ray Stevenson, Rupert Friend, Ben Miles. Avery Graves, a CIA operative, is blackmailed by terrorists into betraying her own country to save her kidnapped husband. cut off from her team, she turns to her underworld contacts to survive. Again, this one, so Brothers was on Prime, by the way. I think I said Netflix. It actually was on Prime.
Gotcha.
And Canary Black is also on Prime. Both of those films are from MGM Studios. And I'm starting to question who is running MGM Studios, because this was another movie that was just it was a film that plays off of a lot of tropes that you find in these types of spy thrillers. Some of the action chase scenes are very well done, but the movie itself is very predictable and left me sort of disappointed again. Okay.
I looked at the trailer for this. It looked like a female Bourne Identity kind of thing.
Right, and it does not even scratch the surface of being a Bourne Identity film. Okay? On the small screen, again, I watched Lincoln Lawyer Season 3, which dropped on Netflix, with Manuel Garcia Rolfo.
Okay.
I can't pronounce half these names. Angus Sampson and Becky Newton. I'm a fan of Lincoln Lawyer books by Michael Connolly. And this is a David E. Kelly produced series. Gotcha. It's a legal drama. Very well done. I enjoyed it. And then finally, over on Hulu, Old Man Season 3 has dropped.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Season 2. The Old Man Season 3 gets uncertain update from Jeff Bridges, so they haven't committed to a Season 3, but Season 2 has dropped. If you watch Season 1, I thought it was very good. Jeff Bridges is the lead, stars as Dan Chase. John Lithgow plays Harold Harper. The synopsis is Dan Chase absconded from the CIA and lives off the grid. When an assassin arrives and tries to take Chase out, the old operative learns that to ensure his future, he now must reconcile his past. The FBI's Harold Harper, which is played by John Lithgow, is called on to hunt him down because of his complicated past with the rogue fugitive. When Chase proves to be more difficult to apprehend than the authorities expected, a highly trained special ops contractor is sent to pursue him as well. While on the run, Chase rents a room from Zoe McDonald, who draws on reserves she never knew she had to survive the day when she learns the truth about her new tenant. So that's kind of the synopsis of actually Season 1. So Season 2 picks up and continues. Joel Grey is in this, and it's it's a well-acted, well-done series, and I've enjoyed it. You can check it out on Hulu. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 85%, IMDb 7.6 out of 10. So I think a thumbs up for the Old Man as far as I'm concerned.
Not too bad. Wow. That's
what I've been watching. That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff, Dave. Well, I am looking forward to seeing Venom: The Last Dance myself. And actually a fair to Midland score is not bad for a Sony Marvel associated film. I have high hopes, but Sony just shoots themselves in the foot with this live action stuff a lot of times. And so anyway, what I did see is, this is the Halloween season, and unfortunately, because of the time and of year and all the stuff I have going on, this is the first year in many years that I have not been able to see Halloween film after Halloween film after Halloween film for 31 days straight. And it's a bummer, but it is life. But I have been able to see a brand new film on Netflix called The Platform 2, brand new. And it is part of the Platform series now. Apparently, the first one made a lot of waves. I've reviewed that movie here on the show and really enjoyed it. It's a thrilling physical journey that allows an approach to the darkness where it's scary to look. It appeals to viewers' civil responsibility and forces them to face the limits of their own solidarity. Basically, the platform is a place where criminals or people that need rehabilitation go for a certain length of time. It could be, 90 days, it could be a year, but they get put in this kind of jail cell where they share two people. It could be male or female in a jail cell, and there's a platform that rises up. You don't realize it at the time when you're put into this position, but there are multiple floors of this. Come to find out, there's over 300 levels. And at the very first level, when they interview you to go into this thing, they ask you about what you've done and, how you're going to atone. And they put you in, they ask you what type of food you want to eat for the rest of your life. And they all write down whatever food they want. And then they put it at the very top floor. And as the platform descends from floor to floor, all the food that they've requested is on it, but it's up to the people up top to eat, whatever they're going to eat. And as it descends down, the food gets less and less and less and less and less. What happens at the people at the bottom of the floor? Well, sometimes they don't eat. And when people don't eat, sometimes they riot. It's a really good, analogy for the human condition and what brings animals, what separates humans from animals, the law and order that is put into this of those who have and those who have not. You can make whatever kind of draw whatever line and conclusion you want, but this is another deep dive into that kind of social experiment. And
is this sort of a dystopian type of prison drama?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
But it is a social commentary, and I do appreciate it for what it does. But it does open up a lot of questions from the first one. It explores a weird timeline between the two films and what came first, what came next. And what I like about great sci-fi is that it leaves open for you to make your own conclusions, for you to draw your own stuff. And I really like it. Now, it does have a 5.0 on Netflix, on IMDb. I give it a good solid 7. I really appreciate it. I really, you come to like the characters, believe it or not. Some of these characters are really, really bad. Some of them actually you feel sorry for, and that is the whole point of it. You want to get drawn and invested, and I feel like after 20 minutes of the film, I'm definitely invested. So congratulations. Check out Platform 2 on Netflix. I finally saw the Iron Claw, Dave. I finally saw the Iron Claw.
Iron Claw.
So if you don't know, the Iron Claw is a story about the Von Erich brothers who made history in an intensely competitive world of professional wrestling in the 1980s. Of course, this is based on the Von Erichs, who had a family. The father was in professional wrestling. They had a bunch of boys that came up in professional wrestling and had the Texas territory, a very popular territory in the early 80s before the WWE swallowed up all those little territories and made wrestling what it is, a global juggernaut today. I will say that this is a very tragic story. The stars and the cast are people you know. Zac Efron plays Kevin Von Erich, who we spend a great amount of time on. Jeremy Allen White plays Kerry Von Erich. Another brother, Harris Dickinson, plays David Von Erich. Fritz Von Erich, the father, is played by Holt McElhaney. And there's just a bunch of really great people and actors in this story. It tells about the tragedy. Unfortunately, a rash of bad luck, if you will, or bad happenings happen that takes brothers' lives. Tragedy. They get involved in car accidents, and there is people self-delete themselves, if I can say that. And it's just really, this story is only a fraction of what actually happened through the course of the family. There's only one Von Erich left, and the rest of the family had passed in very tragic circumstances. But my hat's off to Zac Efron and director Sean Durkin for having a very compelling story. You don't have to like professional wrestling in order to understand and appreciate this kind of biopic story. There is ups and downs, and that's what you want out of this kind of a biopic. So congratulations to them. It's another A24 film, so it has a very nice kind of distinct, gritty look about it. It looks like it was shot in period. And Iron Claw, I can't recommend it enough. Great, great film. Another film that I would not want to recommend is something you saw last week or a couple weeks ago in theaters. That's The Crow. And there's a reason why some films should not be remade, and this is one. I feel like this film is so far removed from the original source material, which, by the way, was a graphic novel. So the original Crow with Brandon Lee was a great gothic story about the spirit of vengeance. You know, someone got off in a really, really bad way. He comes back and exacts his revenge on the people that took his life and the life of those around him, changed them forever. That is a great story. The story's been told a million times before. This one was slow. Plotting. There's a bunch of issues in terms of the pacing. I fell asleep multiple times in this. When you have to wait for a section of the third part of the third act in order to actually spring into action, it's too late. And it's not believable. I don't believe that the actor of Bill Skarsgård, who, by the way, I really like. I like Bill Skarsgård a lot. I like Danny Hudson, Vincent Rogue, who is one of the enemies here. I like F.K. Twigs, who plays Shelley, the girlfriend. I like those actors a lot, but man, did they not have anything to work with?
Oh, no. Again, Aljon, when I saw this, I think I talked about the fact that they spent, it felt like almost 2/3 of the movie doing, backstory.
Yeah.
This was a movie that you should have gone to right from the get-go. You should have gone right into some of the action, and all of this, build up, was just useless, exposition, as they say.
It just seems to me, Dave, that when you have a very small amount of time to tell a story, you start out, and in a story like this, wouldn't the exposition be better done in flashbacks?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you lead off with the
flashbacks.
Exactly.
Short flashbacks.
Short flashbacks where you feel like, okay, I'm dating, I fall in love. This is the girl of my dreams, and then this all gets taken away from us, and now I'm going to exact vengeance, and then the rest is why? Why do you find out, first of all, why do you care about the characters, and why do you care about this person exacting revenge? Why are these people doing what they're doing? You don't find that out till later. And it's
there was a moment in the theater when I saw this movie, because I saw it with a friend of mine, and I think we were like 2/3 into the film, and something happened on screen, and I turned to my friend Rick and I said, "This is where the movie should have started."
Right? I said the same. You know what? I said the same thing to Kristen. I bet you was in the same part, and it was way too late, because you only have 3 acts to tell a compelling story, and you have, within 10, 15 minutes of the film to hook them. That's why those classic Disney films work so well, because it cuts to the chase really quick, and you're invested. It hooks you, and this was missing the hook, so I definitely give this low marks. Don't see The Crow, bypass this. Watch the original one multiple times. It's that good. Anyway, what have you been watching? Let us know, and we can check it out in a future episode.
Skull Rock Podcast, ripped from the headlines. It's Skull Rock Podcast headline news.
Well, Dave, Venom's box office last dance stalls out in the U.S. with $52 million, and it looks to the overseas market for rescue. Of course, the World Series showdown between the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees is stiff competition this weekend, Dave. I don't know if you checked out any of the World Series. I know it's streaming.
I'm not a big baseball fan, Aljon, so I've certainly kept up on the fact that the Dodgers are leading the series 2-0. And there was a first for the World Series in the first game, where there was a grand slam that won that game for the Dodgers. I'm sure that the fact that in Los Angeles and New York, a lot of people were glued to the baseball games as opposed to going out to the movies.
This is a case in point, Dave, that when Sony does damage to a franchise, it just won't go anywhere. And the Venom movies did okay. They did okay. They could have done better. And I think they could have done better with the prequels leading up to this one. And of course, what's the point of us watching if a lot of the people think that it doesn't necessarily connect to the mainline MCU? And I'm sure they left some seeds and planted some seeds where there's going to be some Tom Hardy in the future in the MCU, now that they're kind of bringing those franchises and the Sony Spider-Verse together in the MCU. But, maybe there just isn't that much of a reason to go, or people just don't see a reason to go, right?
Not all of these things need to tie together into the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
You can I think you can and probably should have some standalone stories.
I think so too, Dave. It just needs to be good. Right?
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
overall, if word of mouth is that this is not must see viewing, it's like the DC universe with the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. The first one was great, but word of mouth is this doesn't really matter. It's not a very good film, and people didn't go out to see Joker 2. They weren't interested in seeing a musical. And here in this case, people may not be interested to see Venom, but but I tell you what, Paramount and Temple Hill Smile 2 is holding well in its second week out there. Smile is a surprise hit from last year. It's got $10.3 million for a 10-day domestic cum of $41.6 million. And then there's Edward Berger's Oscar contender Conclave. I don't know if you have plans to see this, Dave. But
I do want to see it just because it's got a great cast. I mean, Ralph Fiennes and Stanley Tucci. Yep. I mean, I want to see it for the performances, and it's getting some good buzz.
Yeah, this is about the acclaimed Vatican thriller about the election of a brand new pope. It looks like it's going to be in about 1,700 cinemas, which is not bad. 6.5 million they're vying for. Pretty good. So not bad for the box office, but I tell you what. We'll see, because the holiday season, as you said, is heating up here. So we'll see how the holiday box office does. Disney names James Gorman chairman of the board of the new CEO. The new CEO is expected to be named in 2026, Dave. This is going to be interesting. Gorman succeeds Mark Parker, who will leave Disney's board early next year, and says that Disney will name a new CEO early of 2026. Dave, what does this mean for the Disney company?
I think this is a very positive for the Walt Disney Company. James Gorman is a very respected executive. He's a retired chairman, he's a retired CEO and chairman of Morgan Stanley, the brokerage and wealth management firm. And he did a transition to new leadership that was widely respected and positive in what he did. And I'll tell you what, typically you'll have multiple executives within a company that are vying for the top spot. And sometimes when they make their choice, you may lose the sort of the secondary person may decide, okay, I'm going to leave and go someplace else. Right. That wasn't the case at Morgan Stanley. It came down to two executives. The one they picked as the new CEO of Morgan Stanley, he ascended to the throne, so to speak. The secondary guy stayed on with the firm and was in charge of some, large division of Morgan Stanley. And I think that speaks volumes to how James Gorman conducted the succession within Morgan Stanley. And so for him to take over at the Walt Disney Company as the chairman of the board, I think is a very positive thing. I hope that he has a steady hand on the rudder and helps to have a much smoother transition to a new CEO from Bob Iger. And I think that's what's going to wind up happening.
The succession plan is super important for companies, every company, not just Disney. So I'm glad that you said that, Dave. I'm hoping for a very smooth transition and for the company to bring themselves up from where they've been. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with Spider-Man 4. It's set for release July of 2026. Wow. The film opens 1 week after Christopher Nolan's next movie, who also stars Tom Holland. Tom Holland is one of Hollywood's movers and shakers, Dave. Man, I am so looking forward to this. That means not a whole lot of time. They've got to get on this film really quick. I hear it's coming together. Tom Holland has been making the rounds in the press, is saying that the script was literally having him and Zendaya. Spoiler alert, Zendaya is going to be in the movie probably. He's jumping for joy over the script, Dave. This is good news, right?
Yeah, let's hope so. But, I think that the last couple Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland have been fantastic films, really well done. And I like the spacing of it. I think they're doing a really good job of spacing these films out so you don't get that fatigue, and Spider-Man is a great character. So looking forward to this in July of 2026, which, like you said, sounds like it's the summer of Tom Holland in 2026.
Absolutely. All right. Disney is looking to reveal which two Moana 2 tracks is going to be submitted for Best Original Song. Dave, this is good. The fact that Disney has some faith and belief that Moana 2 has got a chance with a couple of these great songs, which, by the way, Lin-Manuel is not doing these songs. This is good for them.
They weren't his songs.
They weren't his songs.
Yeah.
It features music and lyrics from Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear.
Yeah. And something, this is standard fare. This is, no matter what the film will do when it comes out next month in November, around Thanksgiving, the studios are all submitting. This is the time of year that they're making their, submitting for Academy consideration in all these different categories. And rightfully so. They should be doing that. It gives them some additional press for the film leading into the release.
Well, you hope that whatever happens, that they don't cannibalize the votes too far, because, you have so many great songs from a particular film, it could split the vote. Don't you think? They should probably have a really good racehorse chosen for this. That's the thing about having multiple Disney films or from the same studio out for contention, because you always don't want to split the vote, right, Dave?
Well, you know what? In the past, though, there's been multiple songs nominated in the song category at the Academy. If you think back to Beauty and the Beast, or you think back to, I think Tarzan had multiple songs nominated the same year, for that film. So, look, I think what they should do is submit whatever they think they should, feel is good enough for competition, and let the chips fall where they may, and hopefully they get multiple nominations.
Oh, there you go. Yellowstone trailer, Dave. You're a big fan of Yellowstone. The trailer for new episodes usher in the Dutton family civil war. The embittered siblings of Beth, played by Kelly Riley, and Jamie Wes Bentley, face off in the preview for this long-awaited return for this Paramount Network drama. Dave, a lot of people are loving this, and it looks like they've got the second half of season 5 trailer in the bag, and more riveting television, Dave.
Yeah, and this is a great series. I'm waiting for all this to drop so that I can finish up watching it. It was a great series from Taylor Sheridan on Paramount Plus and other outlets, I guess. And Kevin Costner's appearing.
Yep.
So he's not going to be in it a lot, but I guess he's in it. So
I was going to say, I thought he was out. I thought it was out completely.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there, but it looks like he's going to be in it a little bit.
Well, there you go. Jimmy O. Yang stars in mysterious action-packed trailer for Hulu's Interior Chinatown. This limited series on Charles Yu's 2020 novel of the same name also stars Ronnie Chang and Chloe Bennett. A predominantly Chinese cast, which is great for authenticity. But this looks very good, Dave. I'm a big fan of these Hulu series.
You know something? I'm a fan of Jimmy O. Yang.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, this trailer's hilarious. If people get a chance, you should watch Interior Chinatown trailer. You can find it on, YouTube or whatever. Just Google it. But I'm really looking forward to this. Jimmy O. Yang is a hilarious comedian. And, I enjoyed him when he was in the Silicon Valley series.
Yes.
Which was terrific. So, looking forward to that. There's some good stuff coming up.
Brilliant. All right, and our regrets for this week, Dave. Go ahead and say it. Say it. Go ahead.
Obituary roll call.
All right. This one is not necessarily shocking, but it is very sad because I'm a big fan of Jerry Taylor. Jerry Taylor is a legend in the world of Star Trek, writer and producer of the Star Trek The Next Generation, Voyager, just a prolific screenwriter. The trailblazing Emmy nominee worked on Quincy M.E., Magnum P.I., and left a legacy with Captain Catherine Janeway, played by Kate Mulgrew in Star Trek Voyager. What a giant. In my opinion, Star Trek is not Star Trek without Jerry Taylor because of her writing. I loved it and never got a chance to meet her, but she did co-create Star Trek Voyager. She passed away at the age of 86, and she passed away of natural causes. Just a brilliant writer, Dave.
And a great career, a fantastic career. She leaves behind a really good body of work.
Tremendous. How about this, Dave? One of my favorite theme songs of all times, The Love Boat singer.
The Love Boat.
There you go. Jack Jones. The theme singer dies at 86. I can't tell you, that is like probably one of my all-time favorite theme songs, Dave, from TV. It's the Love Boat theme. It's so well done. It's like the epitome of yacht rock, right?
It's the epitome of lounge lizardry.
I almost coughed up my coffee there. Once pegged as an heir to the Frank Sinatra throne, the son of Alan Jones and Irene Hervey, also had hits with Lollipops and Roses, The Impossible Dream, and Call Me Irresponsible. I think a lot of people know The Impossible Dream, just a tremendous standard. But once again, Jack Jones dies at the age of 86. Wednesday night, he passed away after a 2-year battle with leukemia. Very sad, but of course, his mother, Irene Hervey, was an Emmy-nominated actress for more than 50 years. So he comes from a showbiz family. And once again, I just love that theme. What a great singer, Jack Jones. Ron Ely, the star of the first Tarzan series for television, dies at the age of 86. Wow, Dave. He also starred as a pulp adventurer in Doc Savage in 1975, replacing Burt Parks as host of the Miss America pageant. A lot of people remember him from that. Yes,
and I remember watching him in reruns of that Tarzan series.
Yes, me too.
So that's and again, 86. He leaves behind a body of work and an incredible career.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of bodies of work, Dave, we just lost recently Grateful Dead founding member Phil Lesh, the bassist, 84 years of age, died peacefully on the morning this past Friday. And, of course, there are not a whole lot of members of the Grateful Dead left. Of course, remaining bandmates Bob Weir, Mickey Hart, Bill Kritzman posted a heartfelt message on Instagram, quote, "Today we lost a brother. Our hearts go out to Jill Lesh, Brian, and Graham. Phil was irreplaceable." And they, of course, reference Lesh's wife and children for whom he survived. So, Dave, I don't know if you were a big
and he was the bass player. He was the bass player. And what's interesting about this is, typically the bass players kind of are in the background on the bands. They're usually the quiet ones.
Yes.
But Phil Lesh wrote a lot of or co-wrote many of the hit songs like Truckin'.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he was not just an amazing writer, producer, musician, but just a very big, great human being from all accounts. Once again, just a tremendous body of work in the Grateful Dead, one of the best bands to ever walk the face of the earth, in my opinion. I think people love the Grateful Dead. I know I did, and I do. I do. They're a lot of fun. So go back and relive all the great moments and all the great music from the Grateful Dead, and wish, happy ever afters to Phil Lesh.
While we're talking about music here, one thing I didn't mention earlier, and I should have, I saw a trailer for the Led Zeppelin documentary that's going to drop in IMAX.
Yes.
And it's the first and only official Led Zeppelin documentary.
Yeah. How about that?
With all, new interviews with, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant and John Paul Jones. Yep. And, it's, I think that's going to be a really great documentary. And if you haven't noticed, Aljon, and I think you have, there's been a lot of rock documentaries dropping.
I love it. They just recently dropped a tour diary for the boss, Bruce Springsteen, on Hulu.
Yeah.
We've had the Beatles stuff going on. I think people are realizing that this is another way to connect with fans, to monetize their catalog. And, the Bon Jovi documentary did really well. We've talked about documentaries of the Go-Go's and Joan Jett and Elton John. All kinds of stuff going on. So, I see this happening for bands like Van Halen and Queen. And if you said, Led Zeppelin, and this is great because we're huge Led Zeppelin fans. Dave, my company just released a collector's edition Jimmy Page acoustic guitar this week, sold out.
Wow.
$20,000 a pop.
Wow.
Played by Jimmy Page, a collector's edition. It's got all kinds of stuff in it. I mean, we have, so both versions of it sold out. We had the signed version collector's edition and the signed label edition. And, at $20,000 a pop, everything sold out. And Jimmy's just a really impeccable musician, one of a kind. And, it's sad to say, but, these rock and roll legends like Eddie Van Halen, who passed away several years ago, they won't live forever.
No, they're not going to. And although I have to tell you, I did see a YouTube video of Ringo Starr practically doing calisthenics on stage at one of his concerts recently. 84 years old. He was jumping around the stage like there was no tomorrow. He looked fantastic.
And I have people and friends that are connected to Ringo Starr that says he's unstoppable. And that's great. I feel the same way about Paul McCartney. I feel like Paul McCartney's unstoppable. He's just, he keeps on touring at a high level. You see these bands. Unfortunately, Aerosmith is calling it a day, but not because of their bodies. It's just their voice. Steven Tyler's voice is just given out, and it's just a shame. But you appreciate these bands, and I'm just looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to the Zeppelin documentary because I'm sure there's our company's going to play a big part in it because it's Zeppelin. The Gibson guitars and Led Zeppelin go hand in hand. So, looking forward to that. And I'm curious, Dave, what you think about these rock and roll documentaries. I've got a few more that I can review before the end of the year, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Same here.
All right. Let's sit back and relax. It is now time for our main event, our one-off show with Dana T. This is Beyond the Glass, the WDW Animation Studio documentary. Enjoy.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we're back again, and we got a little bit of a different twist for this episode. We actually have an uber fan of the Walt Disney Animation Florida studio who made a documentary about the 15 or so years that the Florida studio was in existence. And that documentary is called Behind the Glass, the WDW Animation Building. And we're talking with Dane T., who is the director of the documentary, the person who put it together. Dane, welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Dane, I want to, I mean, our studio audience always goes wild for our guests, but I've got to ask you, you never worked at the Florida studio, but you decided to make this documentary. Can you start from the very beginning? When did you get this idea? Why did you feel like you were the person to tell this story?
Yeah, sure. I have no qualifications to be telling the story. I'll be the first one to admit that.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. So I have a YouTube channel, right? And because of this documentary, it's gotten a lot more traction than it normally does, which I'm greatly honored for. And I do, like history of theme parks, kind of like a celebration of past and some current attractions as well. And each year, really, for my channel, I like to do a bigger style video, one that would get a lot more views than I normally get. One that requires a lot more time and effort. So sometime last year, I read the book that Mary Lesher put out, who did work at the studio. And she put out a whole book about the Florida studio. And I was like, wow, this is. And
I knew Mary Lesher, and she's since passed away, I believe. She has, yeah. Yeah, which is very sad.
Yeah, very, absolutely. Yeah, so she put out this fantastic book, and I was like, man, there's a story here, and the book side, it's a great book, don't get me wrong, but the book side covers a lot of the technology and a lot of the movies that were made there, that side of the story, which is all great. And I was like, man, I'm sure there's a story like to all the people that are in this that were working at the studio too. So fast forward when I started actually putting this into production, it was originally just going to be like a 30-minute thing, and then it just grew from there. And it's really focused on both the unbelievable movies that were made there, and also about a lot of the people that are in the movie telling the story. And focused on their personal lives, or not lives, but personal stories, and just the studio as a whole, how much of a family you guys were. That's a big part of the story. And of course, all that being ripped out from you guys at the end. So it was tough because obviously I did not work there. I'm coming from a outsider's perspective. And the Florida studio really is something for fans. I think that you kind of hear about it once and you're like, oh, that's cool, and then never really think about it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. But you also have to admit there are fans out there who went to it every time they visited the park because 100%. They just loved it,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess in my perspective, because I was born not after the studio closed, but during its lower point in its life. So now it's a very, not well known thing, and that's a shame, because it's a very fascinating piece of not only Hollywood studios history, but just Disney history in general, because of the films that were partially being made there. So I started finding more out about this, because you really have to dig. And I was like, there's a story here. Like, there needs to be something made about this. And I was surprised that there wasn't, because there's no history videos or any kind of deep dive, anything into this thing. And that's really where the ball got rolling from there, after I really discovered a story. And I was like, yeah, there needs to be something made on this.
Now you said you have a YouTube channel. And how many followers do you have of your channel?
Right now I have 1,100. And that's very, very growing very quickly because of this film, which, again, highly honored. It means a lot.
And how did you reach out to some of the people? Did you just kind of track them down on social media, or look for their websites, or to do these interviews?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Most of them are not reachable via social media. Twitter specifically and Instagram make it very hard to reach out to people who you aren't following and they're not following you. Right. So I really had to go through LinkedIn and find emails and stuff like that. More of the the business side, which like for anybody listening and you're like a big fan of Mark Kent, do not reach out to his business email. Like that is for business only. Please do not do that. But for my purpose, I was like, he's going to listen to me if I'm reaching out that way versus like a Facebook message, you know. I don't think Mark has Facebook.
I don't think Mark is on. I don't think Mark is on too much social media. Certainly not Facebook.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he was tough to get in he was tough to get in contact with in general. But yeah, like it means a lot more, and you look a lot more official if you're reaching out that way, as opposed to like a social media thing. So I made a lot of connections through there. And then once I started doing the interviews and people knew that I was coming at it from the right place and doing it genuinely and not looking for any sort of like dirt, you know, on the situation of the closing or anything like that, it really kind of steamrolled from there. Kind of people were like, you know, this guy is legit. If he reaches out to you, like, make sure to accept. And yeah, all the interviews were great. Everyone that's in it are not only fantastic people, but they also have fantastic stories to tell.
So tell me, you know, how you sort of started with, you know, gathering the visuals, and did you do all the editing yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Did you? Except the sound mixing. Sound mixing was done by somebody else.
Okay. And the title cards and things like that, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean,
graphics and all that editing kind of stuff.
Who was
all
the first person you were able to connect with to get an interview?
I strategically went for the executives first. So Max Howard was the first person I interviewed, and he's great. Love Max.
Yeah, Max is terrific and so very giving.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was the first person. He was, like I said, was great. And then I also reached out to Mary Kay. And she was also, I heard later, very instrumental in other people getting on board with, which I appreciate a lot.
That's great. That's great. It's it kind of went viral with the people you wanted to interview. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It did. And it was very easy. Once I reached out to the people, they were like, you know, absolutely. It was like no questions asked kind of thing.
You know, I gotta know Dane.
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite
very humble people, you know.
I bet. You know, I gotta know though.
What was that? Sorry about that.
I was gonna say, I just have to know though, you putting all this together, why, you know, what Dave usually asks this question is like, why Disney? Like, why what kind of fan you're flavor? Were you always your fandom? Why were you always a Disney fan?
Oh yeah, specifically parks. I count myself a Disney Parks fan more than especially now, more than a Disney Studios fan. I've been going since I was 3, you know, and all those kind of memories since I was a kid. That's kind of what most Disney adults kind of trace it back to. Sure. Is like, hey, you know, you have good memories when you were a kid. You kind of want to, you know, at least for me, when I go back there and I see like the castle, for instance, it brings me back to when I was 5, you know, on Main Street. Sure. It's a magic that is unreplicated. And there was a lot of things that I didn't understand when I was really young. Like I was looking at stuff like Wonders of Life, and then I would go there and it would be gone, and I didn't understand why it wasn't there. So then, you know, 10 years later, when I started Big Beautiful Diz, I was like, okay, let's research these topics and then present it in like an educational it's not a creative thing by any means, you know, any stretch of the imagination doing educational videos on YouTube, but you know, I thought it was fun, and it's very fun.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the charm of having a YouTube channel and doing stuff is that it's homemade, it's coming from the heart, you're having fun, and you should own that and embrace that, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what kind of helps the film too. The very kind of, I'll be the first to admit it, I'm not a multi-billion-dollar studio making this, obviously. So the very kind of homemade feel to it, even though I think it's high quality, obviously, it still seems to me, because I'm highly critical of myself, it still feels like kind of homemade, and I think that leads well to the Florida studio because of how kind of close knit family feel that was there. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah, look, I know exactly what you're saying. I didn't get the link to the documentary until this morning, but believe it or not,
sorry about that. I'm gonna have to change that.
believe it or not, I actually watched it from start to finish today.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because we were going to come on and interview you and talk to you. So I wanted to watch it. And look, the thing I will say right off the bat is that this is a document of that Florida studio from the time it opened to the time it closed. And that to me is absolutely important, that there's a documented record of it, and a record of it by the people who worked in the studio telling that story. The fact that you got Max Howard, and you got Aaron Blaise, and you got Mark Henn, and you got Mary Kay, and a lot of other folks that you talk to, I think is what makes this very authentic. And it's them telling the story of their studio that they started at and worked at until it was closed, right? Mm-hmm. So my feeling is that all of our listeners should click on the link in the show notes and watch this on YouTube, because it is authentic, and it is the people who work there telling the story of that studio's really kind of short life, if you will, and I mean no disrespect to you, Dane, at all. I do feel like, I know you did it on a shoestring, but I wish somebody could come in and say, hey, Dane, we're gonna bring up the production value a little bit better.
I agree.
Maybe redo some of the interviews, because some of the composition on some of the interviews, or a bright window behind Mark Henn as he's talking, things like that. That I kind of feel like, if those things were cleaned up, you'd have a documentary that was like a theatrical release, just from the story from the story standpoint, and so I mean that's my impression of it, because I applaud you. I say, hey, this is a well done documentary.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. And I think that's what I loved most about not only making it, but the project in general, is getting those firsthand accounts from the actual people. Because I've seen a few just video essay videos on YouTube, and they're talking about it, but it's coming from a secondhand source where they've read a firsthand account, and it's it's always going to be much cooler if it's always the people who were there telling the story. And I mean, obviously that does come with a zoom glare, on the window. And I wish there was a way to fix that, but I'm just, but
that's what I'm saying, Dane, is the fact that, because of who you are, the fact that you just decided to do this, and you had a YouTube channel, and you were able to track these people down and collect all these interviews via Zoom and put this together. There's a solid narrative to this documentary that I find, really heartwarming. The bit about Bridget Hartley, passing away, and the dedication of the little park next to the building. Man, I got choked up watching that, because it was a very sad moment in that studio, in the studio's history down there, and again, I applaud you for that. And I really feel like somebody should come along and say, hey, Dane, we're going to take this to the next level. You know what I mean? And it's like, keep your narrative, but let's reshoot a couple of these interviews and let's make it a little, higher resolution and things like that.
Yeah, let's plus it. Let's plus it up. Let's plus it up.
And that's really it. It's plussing 100%. The production value of it, But as it stands the way it is right now, to me, this is a great record of that Florida studio. It was a very special studio. I spent 6 weeks working at that studio during Lion King, during the production of Lion King. And all I can say is, it was a wonderful experience, except for the humidity. Because I was there in like July and August.
Hey, I have to say that the fishbowl is one of my favorite attractions of all time. I enjoyed it. I got married in 2003, and I was in the tail end of this whole situation, and I enjoyed spending my honeymoon and then subsequent years for what little time was left that we had no idea. But I was watching the animators come in and paint cells and it was always great kind of, looking at them. And I did feel a little voyeuristic because when you go there, they're working on stuff and you're kind of looking over their shoulder. And it was kind of like watching animals in a zoo. Sorry, Dave.
I think a lot of my colleagues who work down there, fortunately the 6 weeks that I was working there, I was not in the fishbowl. I was actually in some trailers in a parking lot, but I was on the backside of Tower of Terror. So every 15 minutes I heard this collective scream as the elevators dropped, and after a while that just kind of goes away and it becomes like city noise. You don't really hear it, But the first week I was there, it was just, it was crazy to hear that every 15 minutes.
I think it's it's great that you're able to do this, Dane. This documentary is an hour and 40 minutes long.
Yeah, it's an hour and 40 minutes, but I have to tell you, Aljon, I got the link this morning and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this. So let me watch part of it. And I hit play and I was riveted. I was riveted. And not only because I knew most of the people that were being interviewed in the documentary, but because I was hearing their firsthand account of the studio. Yeah. Right. Because I was only a visitor down there. I popped in there a number of times over the years. I spent that 6 week stretch in, I think it was the summer of 94, to help to help them out. And, in my mind, it was, it was a great experience, but I wasn't part of that family, so to speak, even though I was part of Walt Disney Animation Studio, the Walt Disney Animation Studios family, I wasn't part of the Florida studio family. I was just a visitor, and to see the folks.
That's exactly why I had, keep going.
Yeah. No, I just so our listeners know, we have a little bit of delay with Dane. So, but let me just say this one comment though. For me, it was really great to see people I know telling their story of that studio, the people that were there from the beginning to the end. And it was great. And I was so happy to see that you got Max and you got all these other folks. Jerry Reese is in there. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that's exactly why I got somebody like Counselor involved, because he was down there for what did he say? 2.
Yeah, I think he was down there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, something like that. Not too long.
Right.
Just basically making Roller Coaster Rabbit. And I was like, somebody that is there for that amount of time is going to have a completely different story than someone who was there for, like someone like Aaron who was there for 15 years,
Right.
So I was like, that's going to lead it's going to be good for him to talk about the opening of the studio. And then second, it's going to lead to a wide range of perspectives through this thing. And he certainly brought that. Yeah. I was very happy with having not just the big hitters, but somebody like him or Bob Rogers or Merritt, who and Steve, who don't do many interviews, and don't get their story heard very often. At least I don't think. And present them as well, because they have equally as important and fascinating stories to tell, like somebody like Max.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you 100%, because Aljon and we want to have people from different areas of the animation pipeline on our show, not just the so-called star animators, right? Because, to do an animated film takes hundreds and hundreds of artists, and we're all cogs in that machine, and you can't just pull one cog out because the machine will stop or get gummed up. So it's important to actually talk to all of those folks, whether they were an ink and paint artist or a checker or a scene planner or a cleanup artist or whatever it was that they did. All of those stories bring different perspectives, and I think that's important. And again, it was another facet of your documentary I really liked, was that you didn't just have a couple of star level talking heads. You had a variety of people who were all contributing to the story of that studio. Let me ask you this question, Dane. What kind of reception have you gotten since this dropped on YouTube?
Oh, I've gotten unbelievably positive feedback and reception from it. It's been overwhelmingly positive. I think the dislike ratio is 99 to 1 or something. I think I have 300 something likes on it and 1 dislike. And it's that one guy that is probably a bot that probably still likes the film.
He's a troll.
Exactly.
He's that one guy who's gonna drag you down as much as he can because you did the documentary and he only thought about doing one. You can't pay attention to those. But I think that's really awesome. What do you hope to accomplish with this documentary?
That's a good question. Well, I think I accomplished my goal of bringing this studio forward and letting people know about this really cool place that was in Hollywood Studios. And I'm not going to lie, there was absolutely a growth goal, subscribers or views, like any YouTuber is going to have, that has exceeded my expectations. I think it has 20,000 views now. I was expecting it to get at 10, maybe 10,000 views, but it skyrocketed after that.
Still growing.
So I'm a realistic guy. I don't really set sky high goals, but the ultimate goal for me and the ultimate dream scenario, and I don't think this is ever going to happen, but the ultimate thing for me would be somebody in Disney watching this being okay, this is really special, and somebody high up and them close Launch Bay and finally bring back Magic of Disney Animation. That would be the ultimate thing. I'm sure that's never going to happen in a million years, but I didn't think a lot of stuff would happen with this. So you never know, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. But
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, but what I would love to see happen is that somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey, Dane, we want to make a like a broadcast quality documentary.
Oh yeah.
Here.
That's absolutely something.
That's what I hope happens is that, somebody comes along and says, hey, let's take your documentary and just, up it a little bit in the production value and clean it up a little, redo some of the interviews. I mean, there was a couple of interviews where the person is like looking down because their camera was higher up on their computer, things like that. There's one person being interviewed. There's a crucifix that's on the wall behind them that looks like it's sticking out of their head, things like that. I mean, Mark Hand having a window behind him, but you know what? You overlook all of that because of the stories that are being told.
The content's good. The content's good.
And the content is golden there. And, it's terrific. And certainly all the people that participated jumped at the opportunity to tell the story because, Chuck Williams is a great guy. Aaron Blaise is just an amazing, fantastic talent. He was one of the pillars of the Florida studio and, somebody who, is still doing great things. But, a great spokesman for, the Florida studio tour because he was there from the beginning to the end.
How long did this take? Yeah. How long did this take you, Dane?
Yeah.
Did it take you a long time? How long did this take you to make, Dane? I want to know.
I always say when I'm asked this, I always say a year and 10 months, I think.
Okay.
So just under 2 years it took you to put this together.
Something like that.
Yeah. When did you start on this? Did you start during the pandemic by any chance?
It kind of started in like 2022.
Okay. So really 2 years after.
More.
Okay.
Yeah.
As people were coming out of the shell shock of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap it up, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you're going to do next? And, will you keep us posted on how you're doing with this?
Yeah. I do remember when I started, whenever the book came out, I forget when that was, but that was like early 23 or so. So maybe it was then. I honestly forget.
That's all right.
So what's next for you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, this is that's a good question. One that I'm asking myself. My channel is obviously it's in a little bit of a break right now because of coming off of this, giving it a little time to do its thing. And there's some possibilities of when is this going to post?
This is probably going to post in a few months.
You guys know?
Yeah, I have to look at the schedule, which I don't have handy.
Okay, then I can say this.
But it's going to post in the fall probably.
Okay. Oh yeah, then I could say that. Okay, there's some possibilities of maybe some screenings around where I'm from. Matt Novak, who's in the movie, works at the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. So there's a chance that it may get one there or somewhere around Lancaster. I would love to do one in Orlando. So there's possibilities of that. I'm also, always looking for like more creative stuff to do, more, series kind of things for my channel. So, if you want to know or see more stuff from me, either follow me on like Twitter and Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel to know.
Yeah, and you'll send us the links to all of your social media.
Oh, I got
Absolutely.
it. I got it all.
You got it all already,
yes.
Aljon?
You got it? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're always one step ahead of me. Yeah, I'm going to start calling you Radar O'Reilly.
You got it, boss. Follow Dane on Twitter or X at DoleWhip71. You can also follow Big Beautiful Diz on Instagram. We've got a Discord, Cameo, Patreon. It's all there. You can support him as well. And hopefully just keep on making great content, man. Just keep on. Yeah, you're doing Cameo, man. Look at that.
Yeah, I forgot that I even have a Cameo.
It's listed on there. I'm gonna promote it. It's already on there.
I do have a Cameo. Cameo is a thing. I don't get Cameo. I think it's stupid. It's been a running like theme on my channel that I think it's dumb. So I found out how to apply for Cameo and they somehow accepted me. So I thought it was funny. So I started putting it on there.
There you go.
Yeah, I do have a Cameo.
I'm going to get Dave on Cameo. That's going to be great. So
that's fantastic.
Dave a couple bucks and you start doing people's voicemail, Dave.
There you go. Hey, Dane, it was such a pleasure having you on. And also, I just want to reiterate, it was a pleasure to actually watch your documentary because of all of the great people you have in the documentary and really the cohesiveness of the story being told by all those individuals and how you sort of cut that together. I really appreciated it, and I think it's an important document of that 15 years of the Florida studio being in operation down there and all the great stuff that they put out. I mean, Brother Bear and Mulan and Lilo and Stitch and all the work they did on those pictures, like Beauty and Lion King, and it was, I think, a phenomenal time for Walt Disney Animation Studios, and really a phenomenal time from the standpoint that they were part of the Disney animation renaissance, without question.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for your kind words. I that means a lot. That means a lot. So thank you.
All right, Dane. Awesome. Thanks for being on the Skull Rock podcast, and we wish you all the best with the documentary.
Well, thank you.
Hi, this is producer Carolyn Bates, and you're listening to the Skull Rock podcast.
Everybody's been waiting for it. What is this week's deal of the week, Kristen?
But this travel deal can save you up to $200 per night on a 3-night, 2-day room and ticket package at select Disney resort hotels. This is going to be valid for arrivals most nights from February 26th to June 30th of 2025. So not only do we have a new travel deal, because I don't know how long it's been that we've been saying the same travel deal, but other than that, we have our very first travel deal of 2025.
Nice.
Can you believe it? I'm like, seriously, it's almost 2025. What is going on here, people?
I know. I can't believe it. All this can be yours and then some by contacting Kristen for your free quote and to get you started on booking your next Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Universal Studios, Orlando, or even any cruise line or Adventures by Disney. Save time and money with Kristen. Where can they email you, Kristen, for that free quote?
They can contact me at themeparksandcruises@gmail.com.
Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by listeners like you. We would like to thank Christine Banas, Spencer Wright, Lindsay Scaife, and Joshua Volkert. Support the show for as little as 99 cents per month by clicking on our listener support link in our show notes. If you are interested in advertising your event, business, or service, please email Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. Thank you for your ongoing support.
Your attention, please. Now loading on track number 1 for a trip around Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom.
Skull Rock Podcast.
All aboard.
Your main street to the world of Disney.
Wow, it's great, once again, that fans have the power to create and educate and entertain, and we're glad to have Dana on the show to talk about this documentary.
Yeah, something, again, I don't think there was enough done to document the animation tour in Florida, and I'm so glad somebody like Dana came along and did it. Look, it's not a professionally produced documentary by any sense, but the heart is there. You know, he tells a good story. And, you know, this is the kind of film I wish somebody would come along and just sort of, you know, clean this up a little bit and make it a little bit more professionally done, because this is the kind of thing that I think the fans would love to see on a Disney Plus.
It's a good narrative and it's got great bones. Yeah. And I think for a fan documentary, I think this accomplishes a lot of great things. And so my hat's off to you, sir. It's great that the fans are able to put this kind of content out there. It's doing tremendously well on YouTube. We'll put the link in the show notes so you can check this out. So it's definitely something you want to hear and listen to. It would make for great podcasting, by the way, because of all the great interviews. So sit down, get a chance to listen to it. Well, gang, it is time now to wrap things up. Once again, if you love Disney and pop culture and you made it to the end of this show, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media. Facebook, X, Dave and I are both on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram. All right, check out our Instagram stories. Be sure to check out the entire show archive at skullrockpodcast.com. Send us those emails because we love to read them, just like we did Chris's email earlier in the show, Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. The link is in the show notes as well. And leave us those voicemails. Leave us those 5-star reviews because every single bit of it helps the algorithm and pushes us to that next level and gets our show in front of so many more people. And once again, as Dave said, we're on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that bell for notifications every time we post new content, and you're going to get right in there and see and hear all the brand new content that we have to offer, all these great new interviews. Follow me, Aljon.
Go, Aljon, yes. Go.
Check me out on Instagram, Aljon Go on Instagram, and also my other podcast, Skull Rock Podcast. This is what we're on right now. Dying at Disney Podcast. We host 2 shows a week, and we're also on the Sorcerer Radio Network. Thank you so much at srsounds.com. Dave?
Well, listen, I'm going to keep saying this until February 21st to the 23rd. We're going to be at the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, Tennessee. Woo-hoo. It's going to be really the first time that you'll be able to see Aljon and Dave together. The two of us together in one place. It's going to be a volatile situation.
No,
That's all I can say.
It's going to be fun.
You can check out my show, The Tunes Behind the Tunes, on SiriusXM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. It's new episodes drop each month and play throughout the month on SiriusXM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. Also, go to theoldmillpress.com. It's holiday shopping season, author-signed You can go to theoldmillpress.com. You can get author-signed copies, and you can certainly get an author-signed copy of my latest book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat. By the way, some fabulous reviews of the book are on Amazon, and if you do have a copy of the book, please go to Amazon and leave a review for me. I'd love to know what you think of the book. I hope you love it. It certainly is touching a lot of people. I heard from somebody who purchased the book just the other day. They were raving about it. They loved it. So check it out. Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat. You can get it wherever you get your books, or you can get a author-signed copy from theoldmillpress.com. Of course, you can go to my website, davidbossert.com, for all kinds of free content and free stuff. If you've bought a book, one of my books from booksellers, you can get signed book plates. Just send away for them. Just check it out at davidbossert.com. With that, Aljon, I'm going to say go out and have a spooky, fun week. Enjoy Halloween. And we will see you all back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.